Well, hello out there and welcome to the show. This is pretty embarrassing. I did a live stream for 10 minutes and then I realized that I didn't have it public. And I kept on wondering, why do I only have one viewer? It was me the whole time. So yeah, that's pretty embarrassing. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to go through it all again for the first 10 minutes and let you know what's going on. So first of all, thanks to everybody that is checking out the live chat here today. I want to talk about a few things. First of all, I want to talk about what's going on with the Canadian auto sales. Oh, I have a giveaway. I have some other information for people that are going to be wanting to listen to this as a podcast. I've set up a podcast, so I'm going to be telling you about that shortly. So let's get into what's going on in regards to Canadian vehicle sales. All right. So in Canada, last year, we set a record for the very first time selling over 2 million vehicles. Now you think about it, Canada is 1/10 the size of the United States. And in the United States, it was just over 17, almost 18 million vehicles. So if that was in Canada, it would be 1.7, 1.8 million vehicles. But we were over 2 million. First time ever. The Canadian auto market is on fire. And there was a lot of worry that, you know, we had record year after record year over the last 4 or 5 years in Canada. For the first time hitting 2 million, well, how would the new year start out? Well, we just finished the first year. First month is in the books for 2018, and we continue on again. Dennis DeRosier is Canada's leading auto analyst. He's a friend, and he's been on my radio show many times, and he sends out an email every month, and he basically says that this was yet another record, and for people who are waiting for the market to slow down, well, it hasn't happened yet. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, Chrysler is leading the way. They sold 17,700 vehicles, even though they were down from a year ago. General Motors overtook Ford for second place, sales up 15%, and Ford was down from the previous year. Big sellers this month, I should say, this past month, Volvo up 45%. What does Volvo have? The new XC60. They're going to also have the XC40 arriving soon, so any brand that has utilities is doing well. Volkswagen, 3 words for Volkswagen: Atlas, Tiguan, and buyback. So they have 2 hot utilities, the Tiguan and the Atlas, and then they have all of those people that bought Volkswagen TDIs and are now being bought back by Volkswagen. So there's over 100,000 2-liter diesels that Volkswagen sold, and they only need a certain percentage of people to bring them back and buy another Volkswagen for the sales to be bolstered. So Volkswagen's doing very well in the Canadian marketplace. Genesis up 36% and Honda up 31%. That's due in part to, of course, the new Accord being in the marketplace. So yeah, the Canadian auto marketplace is very, very strong. And now here's the interesting thing. We have light truck sales at almost 3/4 of the market. So light truck sales include pickup trucks and utility vehicles at 73.2%. Almost 3/4 of all of the vehicles sold in Canada now are utilities and trucks, and that means that 25% is roughly passenger cars. So that's a big shift from where we were over the years. So if you want to get in on the live chat, you're more than welcome to. The other thing is I am going to be giving this away. This is the Porsche bag that I got while I was in Quebec for the Porsche ICE experience. They have different experiences across the country. They have road trips where they basically go from Atlantic Canada to the West Coast. They pick up and drop off people who want to drive Porsches on the road. On the West Coast, they have their off-road experience for the Cayennes, and their most popular one is the ICE experience, and they've been doing it now 8 years in a row. The Circuit Macaglise is north of Montreal, about an hour and a half, and it costs about $5,500, but it's a 2-day program that includes transfers, hotels, meals, world-class instruction, and access to their Carrera 2Ss and Carrera 4Ss on this ICE circuit. And if you've ever, and you don't have to own a Porsche, you can just sign up if you have the money. A lot of people who do own Porsches go, and if you own a Porsche sports car and you've never driven it in the winter, it's a good way to get access to doing it with their cars. So they're C2Ss and C4Ss with all of the stability and traction control turned off and using Hakkapeliitta winter tires that are studded. On top is snow, underneath is ice, and as the day goes along, there's less snow and more ice, and it really is something. But what the real eye-opener for me was just how much traction you can get with proper winter tires that are studded, and the all-wheel drive Carrera is so capable in the winter. So this I'm going to give away. It's a Porsche. It's a very lightweight, thin backpack. It'd be great for vacationing if you want to throw a few things in there. So I'm going to give this away. The way to get a hold of it is to go to my website, which is motormouth.ca. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the contact tab. Click on that, and in the title, write Porsche contest, and you will get a chance to win that bag. I'll be giving that away in about a month or so. Now, the other thing, before I get to the questions, is somebody made a good point and said, have you thought about making these Q&As a podcast? So I have done that. So if you go to SoundCloud, excuse me, if you go to SoundCloud and you look up Motormouth Canada, you will see I've got audio versions of these Q&As. So if you don't get a chance to watch them here on YouTube, you can go there and listen to them. And it might be good, you know, if you're, you know, take transit or whatever and you want something to listen to while you're going to work or school or what have you, that's there. So it's going to be updated regularly. SoundCloud, look for Motormouth Canada and you can get in on that. All right, so let's get to the Q&A and see what's happening. And I thank everybody for tuning in. All right. So first of all, I'm a real idiot. I did 10 minutes of this already, and I was wondering why I had one viewer. I kept on going, why is there only one viewer? And then I realized the one viewer is me. I had it on private and not on public, so anyway. So Surprise Case says, first in, great show, Zach. Dag says, hey, Zach, love your channel. Christopher Tang says, love Motormouth Canada. You guys do a great job. Roy Park says, oh, you're back. What do you think of Mazda's future in Canada? Well, Mazda is an interesting company in Canada. I've been watching this for years. They win so many awards for their cars. In the Canadian market specifically, the the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada, I think, has given more awards to Mazda over the years than any other brand. But it doesn't move the needle. The Mazda 3 sales are going down. Now, granted, you know, car sales are going down. The CX-5, I don't think lives up to its potential because it's a great product. So Mazda's sales are moving ever so slowly in the Canadian market, and they've had years where they've gone down in sales. And here's the interesting thing about Mazda, a lot of people don't realize. They have the corporate average fuel economy, like the company that has the best overall fuel economy. Mazda has won for several years now. They have highly technical engines, their SkyActiv technology, that produces wonderful real-world fuel economy numbers, great handling cars, and I think beautiful interiors, but they don't seem to move the needle, which kind of begs the question. I think a lot of what they're, you know, people who watch channels like this and are really into cars are more enthusiast oriented, but I think what it really shows you is the average car buyer isn't. Excuse me. They're just looking for good solid transportation, and all that zoom Mazda has built into their cars over the years, maybe it's lost on the average consumer. It certainly isn't lost on people who are enthusiasts, and a lot of them gravitate towards the Mazda product. And in the province of Quebec, their market share is one of the biggest in the world. And in Quebec, people are a little bit more enthusiast-driven. So I think they'll be just fine. I think Mazda will be fine, but they don't seem to be growing as quickly as the rest of the market. Sandy says, hey, Zach, what do you think of the new Porsche Range Rover Sport that is coming soon with the Velar interior, or the Porsche Cayenne S? Which one is your pick? How does the price compare? Well, you can go and watch the Velar video I did with my wife Andrea, and we talked about this. So a nicely equipped Velar is basically like a, not top-end model, but a nicely equipped one is basically where the Range Rover Sport starts, okay, which is right around $77,000, $78,000. But the Range Rover Sport can get quite expensive. And I truly believe that the Velar is going to steal sales away from the larger Range Rover Sport. Now, all of the Range Rovers, whether it's the full-size Range Rover, the Sport, or the Velar, have the dual screen technology. So above it is the 12-inch unit, then they have another screen, which is kind of their command center, which is now differentiating that line from Land Rover from the main Land Rover. So there's another video that Andrea and I did of the Discovery, and that's on the channel as well. There's the Discovery there. And so what they've done is they've got a simpler interior in the Land Rover products and the more upscale interior in the Sport. The other thing that Range Rover has done is improve the comfort of the seats in their products, which I think is long overdue. We did a review of the Range Rover Sport a year or so ago, and nobody liked sitting in the back seat because the seats were like really rock hard. So I think the Range Rover Sport, in my opinion, is going to suffer because the Velar is going to be so popular. Barry Cosgrave says, any word on when Honda may release EV prototypes? I don't know. What they showed in Detroit was the Insight. That is their vehicle that is the hybrid. So those that don't know, the Honda Insight was the very first hybrid sold in Canada. It wasn't the Prius. It just beat Prius by a very short period of time, and it was a 3-cylinder hybrid. They're bringing the Insight name back to a new vehicle that they showed. It's a very nice looking sedan at the Detroit show. So no word on pure EV, but yes, they certainly have a new hybrid coming. Sandy said, did you get invited to the Porsche ICE experience and did you have to pay? I was invited on behalf of Porsche Cars Canada. There were auto journalists from South America, United States, Mexico, Canada, and I believe some were from Europe. But yes, we were invited by Porsche Cars Canada. So there'll be a video coming on that soon. Elizabeth Long says, hello. Well, hello back. Elizabeth, nice to have you on board in the house of all dudes here, so it's good. Karthi says, may I know which SUVs are amongst the heaviest, safest, and have the longest bonnet or hood? Mileage is not a problem. Well, I guess if you're looking for safety, big, large vehicle that's safe, I think that the big utilities from General Motors and from Ford, there's the new Navigator from Lincoln. These are full-size body-on-frame trucks, meaning they're built off a pickup truck platform and then they put the body on top. It's not a unibody design like the Discovery here. And they are heavy and big. And if you're worried about mass, then I think like a big truck like that would be the way to go. So you have the General Motors vehicles like the Cadillac Escalade, the Tahoe, the Suburban, and so on. And then you have the Ford Expedition and the Lincoln Navigator. And there might be some others in there, but that's the type of vehicle you should be looking for. Impact by Eclipse. Hey, Zach. So Canadian vehicle sales have been great, and that's good. But what are your thoughts on the future of the automotive manufacturing industry with NAFTA? Okay, so North American Free Trade Agreement is so the biggest beneficiary of that agreement is the auto industry. And there's all kinds of statistics about the literally billions of dollars of trade that goes across the Canadian-US border every single day, billions of dollars every single day. And a lot of it is car manufacturing plants. So for example, a lot of you might not be aware that one of the biggest auto parts suppliers, maybe it's Ford or a Chevy or a GM or a Toyota or whatever, is made by a company that's based here in Canada called Magna. Magna International is a huge auto parts supplier for the entire industry. So it doesn't matter what car you drive, it probably has Magna parts in it. And so, for example, they might make something at a plant in Ontario and then it gets shipped down into the United States and is then part of an assembly, a pre-assembled piece that then goes back to an assembly plant in Canada and then back in the United States. So these parts and supply chains are going back and forth across the border every single day. I think what's going to happen is the pressure is going to mount from the governors of these states and from business leaders, from the auto industry and so on, to try and get some kind of North American free trade agreement in place. Now, the guns from the United States are kind of aimed at Canada, but really they're aimed at Mexico. Mexico is a much lower cost jurisdiction than Canada. Canada, US, wages are similar, unionization, all that kind of stuff. Mexico is an entirely different story. People down there making, literally pennies on the dollar compared to Canadian workers and US workers. And that's where a lot of the manufacturing has moved to Mexico. That's the big problem the United States has. We kind of get a spill-on effect here in Canada. So could there be an opportunity to have a unilateral trade? We used to have the Canada-US free trade agreement that was brought in with the Brian Mulroney government in the 80s, and then it became the North American free trade agreement. So we could kind of revert back to just Canada-US, which would probably be fine. But even those parts I mentioned are going into Canada, then into Mexico, and then back across the border. It's so complex, to unwind it would be almost impossible. So I don't think the agreement will go away. It's just going to have to be amended. This is from VJ. Says, hey Zach, I'm in Ontario. I've been driving for about 4 years. What's the max speed you can go over speed limit in any Canadian road and not get caught? Well, it really comes down to where you live. It's funny because I was in the province of Quebec and I was asking my French-Canadian colleagues there, I said, how strict is the Sûreté de Quebec? That's the provincial police force in Quebec for speeding. And they said it really depends on where you are. The closer you get to Montreal, they're going to be stricter, or major center. And then you're in rural Quebec, maybe not so much. In British Columbia, we have a highway here called the Coquihalla Connector, the Coquihalla and the Coquihalla Connector. It's basically a highway that goes from the end of the Vancouver area up into the interior of the province, and the speed limit is 120 kilometers an hour. Now, I suspect most people push the speed limit 10 to 15K over, maybe 20 kilometers over, before you're going to get pulled over by the police, which means in the province of British Columbia, and I drive that road a lot in the summer, it's a sort of a summer vacation area, there's people driving easily 140, 150 on that road, and there doesn't seem to be much police presence, and you kind of know where they sit often. So it really depends on where you live, and I think it's better to ask people in your province, wherever you are. If it's Ontario, I know Ontario is pretty strict. It really depends province to province. What do you think of the new EcoSport from Ford? Well, I haven't really, I got to wait to drive it. I think it's going to be interesting. There's no end to the number of utilities that are getting into the marketplace. So those that aren't aware, it's smaller than the Escape. And there are new products in the market like the Qashqai from Nissan. And there's going to be more and more and more utilities and fragmenting of the market. I'm not sure about the rear doors on it. They've got the kind of funky doors, but I have to wait until I drive it. So I don't want to say just yet. This is from Hank. Hey Zach, I'm looking to lease a car for my daily commute to work. What would you recommend? I'm thinking of either a Golf GTI, Civic hatchback, but I'm open to suggestions. Thanks. Okay, well, one thing I want you to do, and I understand you're maybe attracted to the GTI because it's sportier looking, but the regular Golf with 170 horsepower and almost 200 pound-feet of torque is a great car that runs on regular gas. So that's one thing to consider. Both the GTI and the hatchback are going to use premium fuel, but you're going to get a lot more power. So you go from 170 horsepower in the regular Golf to 220. Now that's a marked difference in a small car, and it really is fitted nicely, but it's a lot more money. So the Civic hatchback you can get with either an automatic or a manual. Now the big difference between the two, if you're driving a manual, yeah, they're both wonderful cars. I'm not particularly loving the looks of the Civic hatchback, the back of it with the cheese grater grills. Don't love that. But here's the thing. The Civic is a CVT, okay? The GTI is a dual clutch, much more aggressive and progressive drive, and it's much more connected. If it was between those two, regular watchers know I love me some Volkswagen, and I would probably go with the GTI, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that Civic, and I think they did a wonderful job. So go and drive them and see what you think and see what you like. But also try the base Golf and get it really nicely equipped. And for a commuter car, it might be not a bad way to go. Talon Hardcore says, hey Zach, big fan of the show. I'm in the market for a luxury sports CUV. What is your take on the Mercedes GLC 443 and the Audi SQ5? Which one's your pick? Well, I think it's basically apples and apples with those two. They're both wonderful products. The SQ5 and this GLC 43. I think the GLC looks pretty hot. I think when you get some of the packages on, I think it looks really good. They did a wonderful job. I like both of those. And if you ask me what my two favorite premium compact utilities are in the marketplace, those are the two. It's the Q5 and the GLC. So what I would do is go out and try them out and see which one you like, but I have zero problem with either of them. The SQ5 is a wonderful engine. They're both great. And so good for you that you can afford one of those, because either way, you're going to be very happy. But I think the GLC with the AMG body kit on it looks pretty hot. Vincent says, hey, is getting a manual transmission in Montreal, Canada a bad idea? Is it annoying to drive with boots in the snow? Yeah, sure. I guess it would be annoying to drive with boots in the snow. But I would, you know, have you ever driven a manual? So if you've never driven a manual, then that's probably something you want to get your hands on, is a manual transmission car. Drive it with your boots on, see if you like it. DBAX97, great work with the channel, Zach. I'm considering buying a used 2015 Golf Sport Wagon TDI. Any issues you know with this car? Reliability in particular, thanks. So here's the thing. There's an opportunity here for anybody that is interested in buying a great car at a discount and having wonderful mileage and fuel economy. The later model Volkswagen TDIs had the AdBlue urea injection into the fuel system that cleaned up the nitrous oxide. So we know about the whole problem with Volkswagen and their diesels. Well, the cars that have this urea injection AdBlue system are definitely easier to bring into compliance than the old cars. And the stories of people with those models that have been fixed and repaired and are now allowed to be resold are saying that there really isn't that much difference in the drivability from the old car to the new car, because what they do basically is they just shoot more of this liquid into the exhaust to clean it up, to make it compliant. So a lot of these cars that people have had under ownership or lease over the last few years are now getting brought back and bought back by Volkswagen. They're giving them back and they're saying, okay, I'm moving on. But those cars are now allowed to be resold. So there's going to be a lot of them coming onto the marketplace. So you're going to see 2015 Volkswagen TDIs showing up at dealerships, and then you're going to be able to find ones that have higher mileage, lower mileage, different prices. So I think it's a wonderful car. And I think that long-term reliability, well, they are changing the exhaust treatment system, but Golf TDIs historically have been very durable with lots of miles and kilometers in them. One issue is the panoramic sunroof. Has been an issue, leaks in those and squeaky and what have you. But yeah, going with your eyes wide open, and there's going to be some out there, and there's going to be some really good deals, I think, too, as the time goes on. I don't even want to try and say this name. Narishan, I'm going to try the last name. It's about that long. Hey, Zach, you said you're not a fan of Acura's 9-speed in the TLX transmission. I own a 16 TLX and it drives great and really sporty. Nothing wrong with it, by the way. Like your channel, thanks. Well, here's the thing, Narishan. I'm not sure if you drove the old car without the 9-speed. So what you need to do is drive them both to see that the other one was better. Gordon Swartz, torn if I should drive my Porsche 911 GTS in the winter. Got snows, but I'm worried about salt. What do you think? Well, here's the thing. Porsche is, you know, they have their winter driving programs because they want people to use their cars. I'm kind of in two minds of this. I think the people that lease these cars brand new, and they obviously make enough money that they can just get a new high-end car every 3 or 4 years, I would drive it in the winter and put winter tires on it and drive it. Now, however, if you're somebody that's just sort of climbed into Porsche owning experience for the first time and this is your baby and you're going to wash it every week and you just open the garage and look at it and adore it, well, you're probably not going to want to drive it in the winter. Now, I know these cars are very, 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 very capable in the winter. I was just driving them in the snow. Personally, me, I wouldn't drive it in the winter. I don't want salt on my sports car. Personally, if you don't care, if it's just a leased car and you're going to get another one in a few years, drive it. Now, back to what I was doing this week. Porsche Ice Experience was at Circuit Maccaglise north of Montreal. They're there for the entire month of February. They're going to put 460 people through their 2-day programs that happen up there. And when I went there, they gave this little parting gift. It's a very lightweight nylon backpack. And I'm giving you a chance to win this. And how you do it is go to my website, which is motormouth.ca. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the contact tab, and fill in the subject line Porsche contest, and I will draw and give that away soon. The other thing is I'm taking these Q&A YouTube segments and I'm turning them into podcasts. So go to SoundCloud and search Motormouth Canada, and if you don't catch these on the YouTube channel and you maybe want to listen to them in your car or you want to listen to them on your way to school or work, they're there. Motormouth Canada at SoundCloud, and you can download. You can see there the entire Q&A is there for you to listen to. Okay, so back to what we have here. We'll go back to the live chat. And see if I can catch up with where we were here. So I can see as soon as I mentioned that you go to the website and you fill it out, it already starts to filter in. VJ writes back and says, what do you think is the best way to get rid of a lease car before lease ends? I drive a Mercedes C300, 39-month lease, done 8 months now, 1,800 kilometers, but I want to get a BMW 3 or 4 Series. So Lease Busters is your best way to do it. Now, typically, you have to, you've only driven at 1,800 kilometers? Okay, so the good thing is with your lease is the way I would market it on Lease Busters is there's a lot of kilometers left. Okay, so if you typically get 16 or 20 or 24,000 kilometer allowance for your lease, then you are going to be able to say to somebody that's going to take this lease over, there's lots of kilometers left. So somebody that might be looking for a lease takeover that does more than the typical allotment might be interested in that. Now, typically, the best way to get rid of your lease is to incentivize it. Say, I'll give you $500 to take over my lease. So basically, the piece of paper you signed is your contract that you have with Mercedes-Benz to lease it. You then assign that contract to somebody. They take over the lease, and now they deal with Mercedes-Benz and they get the car. However, one thing is, the deposit that you put down on that lease goes back to the person that owns the piece of paper. So if you sign that piece of paper over to somebody else, the deposit goes back to them. So keep that in mind when you're factoring any kind of incentive. That might be the incentive. You get 1 month's lease deposit back at the end of the lease. So Lease Busters is the way to go. And you can try even putting the lease on things like Kijiji and Craigslist and try that as well. Hey, planning to get a car, not sure would be a better choice, the new Accord or the Nissan Maxima, Honda Accord. That's a very simple answer. It just won North American Car of the Year. I think it's a wonderful product. No brainer there. Why do you not love Korean cars still? Who says I don't love Korean cars? This is from Gordon Freeman. If you watch any of my reviews of Hyundai and Kia products, I say often, and I say with Kias especially, and I said with the Stinger, go and watch my Stinger review. I didn't say anything bad about the Stinger at all. I basically said Kia is the #1 brand when it comes to J.D. Power and Associates initial quality. They make some great products. The Kia Soul, I recommend. Somebody emailed me today asking about a vehicle that's easy to get in and out of. He has a bad back. And he said, doesn't want to spend a lot of money and get a utility vehicle. I said, get a Kia Soul. So I don't know what you're talking about. My mother-in-law, her last car was a Kia Rio. So I don't buy that at all. I like Korean cars a lot. And I think that they are a force to reckon with. Richie Rich says, hi, Zach. The GLC has the best interior in the class, but after seeing the RDX prototype interior, I like it more. You've seen it in person. Is the quality of the materials as good as the German levels? I think it's going to be really a big change for Acura. And here's one thing. I didn't go last week or the week before to the Infiniti QX50 launch, but my colleague Brian Chow went, and other auto journalists went, and they said it's exquisite inside. Maybe even class leading, beating the Germans at their game when it comes to interior refinement. So that's a product that is going to be one that I can't wait to get my hands on firsthand and drive, because the reports initially are the interior is stunning. So I think that sort of the last frontier is the interior now, because car companies have figured out how to make stylish cars, make them look aggressive or make them look elegant or sweeping lines or boxy or whatever. What they can do a good job with that. But the interior of the cars is the one area in the last 5 years that I've noticed the biggest jump in how well executed the interiors are, the fit and finish in the materials. And then on top of that, the other frontier is the head unit. The interaction between the driver, the head unit, and your mobile device is really where car companies have to get it right. And back to Kia on that is one of the reasons why Kia does so well with these quality studies, because they kind of got that figured out. Their head units, their Uvo infotainment system with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is excellent. Another car company that's doing a very good job with that is General Motors. And I say this over and over, General Motors is making some excellent products. Do yourself a favor and get into a new General Motors product and play around with their head units, and you will see they are so simple and easy to use. So best in class interior you think is the GLC. The RDX does look very good. Now, there were lots of people climbing all over it, but yeah, that's going to be later in the year. But yeah, I think that a lot of brands are really having to step up their game when it comes to interiors, and I think that that one will definitely be interesting when we get our hands on it. Levant says, my mom owns a 2016 Chrysler 200S V6 all-wheel drive. Soon she's going to trade it in. She's thinking about a 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee or an Alfa Romeo Stelvio or Genesis G80 Sport. What do you think? I'm going to get the Alpha by the end of the month, so I'm really looking forward to that. That product is very aggressively priced. Starts at $52,000, $53,000. It's got more horsepower than anybody else. It's got more standard features than anybody else. It's got a very unique Alfa Romeo design. Apparently it handles like the bomb. I haven't driven it yet, but I can't wait to. It's built on the same platform as the Giulia, which has won all kinds of awards around the world. So that is going to be a wonderful car to drive, and it's just starting to arrive here now. I think that is the one vehicle that's going to get Alpha into the mainstream, because I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't see really any Alphas on the road. I live in Vancouver, which is the capital of prestige cars in Canada. You just have to stand on a street corner in Vancouver and look at the high-end cars that roll by. Alphas, I've seen one of the new Alphas on the road. So this one I think is going to be a breakthrough car. I am a huge fan of the Jeep Grand Cherokee. I absolutely love it. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful product. The Genesis G80 Sport, it's a great product, but it's kind of, even though it's new because it's now Genesis, it's an older, it needs to be updated. The platform needs to be changed. So yeah, I wait till I review the Alpha towards the end of this month. Big Dero says, did you grow up in Vancouver? I'm of similar age and grew up in Kits, and have seen and heard you around forever. I did not grow up in Vancouver. I moved here in 1991, so it's been a long time. But no, I grew up in Toronto. Don't hold it against me. Dr. JBN says, hey Zach, can you comment on the old pre-T Ferrari California? I've heard mixed things. I was not a fan of the California. It was sort of the entry-level Ferrari, if there is such a thing. Still a wonderful, wonderful car to drive. I just couldn't, you know, the one thing, every single time I look in a Ferrari, I just can never get my head around what they charge for these things and the crappy interiors that they have. Like, they have some seriously crappy interiors. Not the leather. That they put leather on everything. It's beautiful leather. The California had the same head unit as a Chrysler Grand Caravan, okay? Except it being black around the outside, it was silver. I remember getting into it and I said, how much is this car? It's $300,000 and you've got a Chrysler Grand Caravan head unit in it? I said, you've got to be kidding me. Now, that's not the main reason you buy a Ferrari, of course. You buy a Ferrari because it's a penis on wheels. It's powerful and it's a status symbol and it's all of that. Makes great noise. Wonderful, wonderful car to drive. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I have to say about that. What do you have to say about it? You chime in on the California. Hank W says, great, thanks, Zach. Okay, I'm not sure what somebody else, Big Dero says again, 328iX or X1. Okay, now, the X1, it depends which one you're talking about. The original X1 was built on the 3 Series station wagon platform, and they jacked it up and they outbacked it, which is the term I kind of have come up with to describe what everybody is doing in the industry. Take a station wagon, jack it up, put cladding on it, and then call it something else. So the BMW 3 Series station wagon didn't sell. So they outbacked it, raised it cladding, called it the X1, sold like crazy. Basically the same vehicle underneath. The new X1 is based on a shared platform with Mini. Okay, so the Countryman and the X1 now have a shared platform. Different engines, mind you. One, the BMW is more powerful, but that is a totally different product. I would say the 328 for scarcity and maybe resale value in the long run might be the way to go because there are just less of them around, and station wagon nerds, and there's certainly those out there, me included. When you're starting to look for a used one, that's definitely a cool car. There's going to be more X1s available. But yeah, if you're down to just pure handling and driving dynamics, the 3 Series wagon is going to be slightly more fun to drive. But the X1 is a great choice. They're basically underneath, they're the same thing. All right. Philip Me, would you choose a XC90 or a Q7? I would go with the Q7. I like the Volvo products. I just don't like their infotainment system. It's just not for me. I like the Q7. One of the reasons is it's not touchscreen, so it doesn't have fingerprints and dust all over it. It's got the controller, the MMI in the middle. And I just think it's, you know, they're both excellent products. There's more engine available, more engines options available in the Q7. You have the turbo 4-cylinder, which I wouldn't get at all. You get the turbo 6-cylinder, which is kind of the engine I would choose. But the XC90 has the super / turbocharged 4-cylinder, which is a great engine. But if you start looking up the quality scores of the XC90, not that great. So yeah, I think Audi wins on that. Jasser says, is there a big enough difference between the Mini Cooper versus the Mini Cooper S to make it worth the upgrade? Yes, that is the short answer. If you're going to buy a Mini and you're an enthusiast-minded driver, buy the S. It's a no-brainer. Oh yeah, this just came out today. Somebody's caught on to this. Himanshu says, when can we expect the new Mercedes A-Class hatch in Canada? It has just been announced today that the A-Class is coming. So those that don't follow Mercedes-Benz that closely, the B-Class is been discontinued, and they're going to bring in the A-Class, which is built on the same platform. So the CLA, the GLA, the B-Class, and the A-Class are all built on the same platform. However, that sort of boxy B-Class shape is slightly different with the A-Class. It's a little bit more sleek and streamlined, and that is coming to Canada. Now, there's also going to be a new released CLA coming soon. So that was the sleek coupe-like sedan that they brought out several years ago. So yeah, just announced today, it is coming. I don't know on the timeline, but I would say if it's announced for this year, it'll be sometime this year. Dr. JBN says, saw the Hyundai Ioniq for the first time today. Looks like they've taken the manual from Toyota and copied the Prius. Is Hyundai doing anything innovative that Toyota isn't with the Prius? Well, first of all, I would agree with you. There's certainly similarities in design, but it's more about the slippery shape of the car to cut through the air, to be efficient. So that's one of the reasons for that. I believe that the interior of the Ioniq is head and shoulders above the Prius. Prius is riddled with the hard, inexpensive feeling plastics. The Ioniq has more of a conventional dashboard and very nicely fitted. Same thing again, Hyundai and Kia. I think they do some of the best dashes in the industry. I think the infotainment system is better. It's got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, it's got all that kind of stuff. Now the biggest difference in my opinion is the fact that it uses like a geared transmission, where the Prius uses a CVT. And when you drive them, one has more sort of a spirited kind of attitude. I went to the Ioniq launch. It was maybe about a year ago in the Okanagan here. We had a chance to drive the hybrid and the full electric version. And I love the hybrid over the electric version. Maybe it was something to do with the conditions. It was kind of snowy, but the Ioniq hybrid really impressed me. And now they have the plug-in hybrid. So that's what they're doing differently. Mojo Gasm says, hey Zach, what is the best compact sedan that has both good handling and noise insulation? Compact sedan, good handling and noise insulation. Well, it's kind of a bit of a subjective thing, because what I find noisy, you might not. I would say the Honda Civic has vastly improved over what it used to be. The Civic used to be a really quite noisy car, and so that is one that I would definitely try. I would try the Hyundai Elantra. You know, you need to just get out and drive the cars that you're kind of attracted to and see which one you think is the quietest. Off the top of my head, I know one car that is definitely quiet is the Chevy Cruze. Chevy Cruze has always been very quiet. That's one that I'm not sure if that floats your boat, but that is definitely one for sure. Hey Zach, good work. Are you reviewing the Regal GS? When it is available for me to drive, I will drive that. Aki2 says, hey, hi Zach, how does Motormouth Canada make money? Next question. Calvin Kang, hi Zach, I really like the new Land Rover Discovery review. It's awesome SUV. I'm hoping to get one in the next year. Do you think that Land Rover's reliability has improved in recent years? It has improved. The Discovery there, I did it with my wife. Well, she just popped up there too. You can watch the review, it's on the channel. And I think that yes, Land Rover, Jaguar, Range Rover, in quality has come up. It's still behind when you look at any of the scores from different outlets, behind many of the other brands. But yes, it's getting better. But that being said, it's not as high as some of the others. Christopher Tang says, Kia Soul is a solid car. I drove it for a week down in California between San Fran and LA. Decent cargo space. I think the Kia Soul is one of the best cars on the road for the money, hands down. It's got a great dash. It's boxy and big on the inside, considering it's a compact sort of crossover vehicle. I have put so many people into that product that you might not think would want it. Older people, honestly, because it's a funky, square, really neat-looking little car that would appeal to young people. But a lot of older people, I get into it because they say the same thing. I need a vehicle that I can get in and out of easily. As they get older, achy back, sore knees, whatever the reason, I say, go try the Kia Soul. They drive them, they email me back and said, I got one, I absolutely love it. But yeah, I think this Soul is a great car. Hey Zach, love your reviews, thoughts on the RDX. RDX is, well, it kind of shows me there's a lot of interest on the RDX. RDX has been a CRV version made by Acura with the V6 and the 6-speed, and arguably a nicer interior. Now with this new RDX, they're really kind of separating between the two brands, Honda and Acura. And this is so important to them because Acura has turned into an SUV brand. MDX, RDX, meat and potatoes. The cars, in my opinion, need to be all redone. I don't like them. I don't like Acura cars. However, I think their utilities are very strong. The RDX, they're going to try and make the performance-oriented driver's choice with a different drive system, the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, obviously coming similar to the Honda Accord. It's going to have, was it the 9 or 10-speed automatic, I believe. Super handling, all-wheel drive is back. They're going to make it much more performance-oriented, much better looking. I did a very quick video of it at the Detroit Auto Show, so go back to the channel and look for it. You will see a quick video. But I think it's going to be a wait and see on how it drives, because there's a lot of the new Acura products, I don't like the way they drive. I don't like their new 8, 9, and 10-speed automatics. So it'll be interesting to see if they can sort some of that out with this new product. Somebody just asked, thoughts on the Kia Rondo, some good deals. The Rondo's an interesting product because when the original Rondo came out, it really was a huge hit. Like, it was everywhere. There was the Mazda 5 and the Kia Rondo, and those were the vehicles that people gravitated towards, that wanted to have a car but needed more space. And then Mazda totally screwed it up. They effed up the Mazda 5 with that wave design. It just is so ugly, and basically killed that product. And then the Rondo, they changed it and made it more car-like, and it never really caught on the way the original did. Now, granted, there's more products like that available in the marketplace, but it's a fine product. I think they do a good job. Good deals? I don't know if there's any good deals on them. You'd have to shop around. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the type of cars travelers would enjoy. I live close to the airport in Edmonton. It'd be easy to drop off cars for travelers. Oh, this is somebody asking about Turo, about that car sharing. You give your own personal car as a rental to somebody. I know people in the States have used it. I'm not sure if it's going to be catching on here. When is the redesign on the RAV4 coming? So I did an interview with the Vice President of Toyota Canada at the Detroit Auto Show. Same thing, you can go back and watch it on the channel. And I asked about a bunch of things. When is Tundra coming? When is Sequoia coming? When is the new 4Runner coming? When are we getting updates on basically all the vehicles? And at the very end of the interview, I said, if I stand here a year from now at the North American International Auto Show and talk about 2018 that passed, what will we be talking about? And he alluded to the fact that there's going to be changes to their core vehicles. And I asked him to clarify that. And he said, well, our core vehicles are Corolla and RAV4, which makes me believe that, yes, something is coming. Now, he wouldn't tell me anything more than that, but read into it what you will. I think there's a lot of Toyota products that need updating, and that is definitely one of them. But it's the same issue that you're going to have with a lot of other products. So they might be putting in, well, actually not so much with the RAV4. I was thinking of, RDX adding in all those gears. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get the same driveline as the Camry. So the updated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with the new 8-speed, and then built on the new global architecture. That is actually a vast improvement to drive. So that configuration in a RAV4, I think, actually would be a great improvement. But what Toyota needs to do is what I said before. The last frontier is the interior. And the interior of the RAV4 is functional, but rather basic. And that's the one area with that product that needs to be updated. Bruno says, hi, Zach. Congrats on your continued success with your channel. We really enjoy your reviews that you do with your wife. Thank you. It brings a different perspective to your reviews, and she's really good. So there's my beautiful wife, Andrea, who helps me out with my business, and she does reviews. So we've kind of decided that the reviews that work best for her are sort of like utility vehicles and premium products, because she drives every day a premium car, and that's kind of that's what we've had for almost 20 years, or sort of high-end cars that are our family cars, and that's what she's used to driving. So she kind of knows those products better, and obviously family vehicles because we have a family. So she's going to be doing more sort of utilities and luxury products, luxury utilities. So that's going to be kind of her specialty. But my wife, like myself, has a radio background. She was a news reader for many years. So she has a broadcasting background. And you want to meet somebody that's sharp as a whip. She's right there. And she is very bright, very smart, knows her stuff. You know what's interesting? Because she's married to the car guy, a lot of people that we know, friends and family and people even in the neighborhood when she's walking the dog, ask her about advice for cars, like you're asking me here now. And then she comes and, we sit and have a coffee, and she tells me, oh, I ran into so-and-so and they're asking about this car. And she tells me what she said to them. And I'm like, she's right on the money. Like, she actually is excellent at this stuff. So yeah, she's going to be on more often. But thank you for that. I'll let her know. Could you please review the Mini Cooper S John Cooper Works? I'd like to see your thoughts, and especially the exhaust, perhaps strong contender in the hot hatch list. Oh, hell yeah. Mini Cooper S John Cooper Works. That's a hell of a car. Yeah, absolutely. MeTool says, what's a better product overall, the Camry, the new Camry, or the new Accord? They're both excellent vehicles. Interesting, I just had Camry a week or so ago, and I had the hybrid a week before that, and the Camry hybrid video is up, so you can watch that. They're both excellent products, very different avenues they went down. And before, they were so homogenous, they were all kind of the same. You know, similar engines, 4-cylinder, and, you know, automatic transmission. Excuse me, but now Honda has gone to turbocharging, and they've gone to CVTs, where Toyota is stuck with, you know, 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and 8-speed automatic transmission. But they have sort of differing paths now. For me, like I said, the last frontier, I just think the interior of the new Accord is better. And that's what you look at and touch. I think it's a better product, in my opinion. This is from Fernando. We're going to, I just want to give a shout out for the bag again. Japanese or American truck, Nissan Titan to be specific versus F-150, and why Nissan seems to be pretty late to the Apple CarPlay options, only 2 vehicles. Well, a lot of it comes down to the architecture of the infotainment system, and they're upgrading it, and they will over time. That Nissan Titan has been a pretty much a flop ever since it came out. They have had a really tough time moving that truck. And when you look at their diesel, it's too expensive. I think the problem with the Titan is that the pricing seems to be off. What's selling very well, even though it's old, is the Toyota, the Tundra, but the American trucks offer so many options. Excuse me. You've got short beds, long beds, short cabs, extended cabs, crew cabs, diesels, 6-cylinders, V8s, on and on and on. There's a reason why the Americans sell so many trucks, because they have so many options. Then heavy duty, super duty, you name it. And when you look at the Japanese trucks, they just don't have the number of products to cover the marketplace. They do make excellent products. I'm not a big fan of the Toyota. I don't like the interior, and I think the engine uses too much gas. The Titan, in my opinion, is just, it's ugly. It's just not a good looking truck, and dudes who buy trucks like a good looking truck. That's why the grills get bigger and they look more macho. I don't know. The Titan for me just kind of leaves me cold, and I think it's leaving the market cold too. Durr says, how are you feeling about the new Jetta? I currently own a 15 Jetta TDI Highline. I want to know what you feel about, which one would you go for? If you have a TDI Highline, I just keep driving it. That's a great car. You're not going to get another one. This TDI's gone away, and the fuel economy, the torque, and everything with that car, it is a wonderful, wonderful product. And there's no rush to get into a new Jetta. It's not like the new Jetta is going to go away in a year. It's going to be around for a long time. So drive your TDI for another couple of years, get a chance to see the Jetta in the flesh, get a chance to drive it maybe at the dealer and see for yourself. It's going from an independent rear suspension in your model to a torsion beam solid axle in the back for the new Jetta, which I think is a mistake on their part. But it looks good, the interior is beautiful, but a TDI Jetta, that's a wonderful product. Keep driving it for a few more years, and there's no rush on getting the new one. It will be there if you ever want to trade it in. All right, the bag. As I mentioned, I was at the winter driving program with Porsche this week at Circuit Macaglis, north of Montreal, for their Porsche Ice Experience. And they gave this parting gift. It's a very lightweight, thin nylon bag, which would be great for going to the gym or whatever. I'm giving this away. Go to my website, go to motormouth.ca. And when you go to the contact tab in the upper right-hand corner, when you fill it in there in the subject, put Porsche contest, and I'll be giving the bag away. And just a reminder that these are now, these Q&As are going to be made into podcasts. So basically taking the audio that you hear and turning it into an MP3 that you can download and play on your mobile phone in your car or on the bus if you're going to school or work. So that's something that somebody requested, and it's free to me, so I did it. So why not? So if the people want it, I give it to them. I'm kind of running up against the clock here. I want to thank everybody. Didn't do it on the weekend or on Monday. Super Bowl is happening Sunday, of course. Nobody would be watching this. They'll be watching the Super Bowl eating chicken wings, because that's what I'm going to be doing. And then Monday, I'm off to South Africa for, it's going to take me 4 days there and back to stay there one day. I'll try and make a little video about it. But thanks to everybody that tuned in. Hopefully I got your question, and I really appreciate all the time that people put in to these, and I think it's wonderful that you enjoy them, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much, and continue watching as we go through the months, and we'll see you next time.